We rise early to watch the sunrise. The higher the sun gets, the more the sand and colours of the desert begin to change. It's definitely one of the must-do things when you're out in this part of Australia. We take our time to pack up camp, have a bit of breakfast, but before long we're back on the road, headed for our destination for the day, Poeppel Corner. Now, because we didn't cover as much ground yesterday as what we'd originally intended, it means today we might have to do a little bit of extra driving, just to be able to put ourselves in a position where we can get the desert finished and get back to Brisbane in time for Nat to return to work.
So day 2 on the road, we just jumped back onto the QAA line, up and over the first dune out of our campsite. Beautiful sunrise this morning. It's about 9 o'clock, so we didn't get going too early. However, we probably have a very big day ahead of us, where we may have to continue on without the rest of the group. They have a bit more time up there sleeping than we do. So for that reason, depending on how far they want to go today, we might go a little bit further. So our kind of rough plan now, just because it took us a little bit longer to get here in the first place, is we'll do a pretty big day today, and then tomorrow we'll get to the other side, and then potentially leave again tomorrow as well, just so we can get back to Brisbane in time. So the track so far is pretty good. It's not overly rough, which means we can maintain a pretty good speed as well. So yeah, we'll just keep plodding through the desert. Might be a bit more traffic coming this way today because I think the desert race just ended. But yeah, we'll do some more desert driving and might see a few animals today once we get further into the desert. So one thing, if you ever cross the Simpson Desert, you'll notice is how much the landscape continues to change, whether it's the colour of the sand dunes or the types of trees. Like, you'll go through valleys in between the sand dunes where there'll be lots of trees, and then there'll be dead trees, and then there'll be alive trees. And what we're coming up on now is our very first salt lake on the QAA line. It's only a very small one. There is quite some larger ones out here. Can't miss them because it's got that very distinct white crust over the top of it. I definitely won't be driving too far onto one at the moment with how much rain they've had out here. But yeah, it's amazing just how much this landscape continues to change.
Catch up to the rest of the guys and decide to have a quick look around and inspect the salt lake.
So we just pulled up here, so this is the second salt lake we're about to cross. I'd normally take my sunnies off to talk to the camera, but with the white on the ground and the sun in the position that it is, it's vibrantly bright. So it's actually, normally last time I was here, this is very fluffy. It was all hard packed the last time I came through, but that was about 8 years ago, so probably after all the rain and stuff like that, I guess it's moistened the soil up a bit. Yeah, so this is a salt lake, and you can get crusts like that. So if you like the taste of dirt, you could probably add that into your pasta. Probably have to clean it before you could eat it, I'd recommend. There's other places through the desert as well where you can find proper baked salt, and it has a nice sort of clearness to it, or almost looks quartzy sort of in its finish. But this stuff sort of, yeah, if you brush it off, you can kind of see it's got that clear sort of crust. But yeah, quite powdery, this stuff out here. Here we go, there's big flakes of it over this way.
There's a real big shiny bit over there too, babe.
If you come here, there's big flakes of crust. There you go. So I don't know what the difference is, why some of it, I don't know if this is just baked by the water and stuff like that. You get down nice and low with it, and it's like quite hard as well to break off. Pretty cool. You find all kinds of stuff out here in the desert, and like I said before, it's amazing how much the landscape just continues to change. Like over behind us here, you'll notice that there's like trees and stuff like that, whereas we can go over this next sand dune and it can just be all low-lying sort of shrubs and grasses and stuff like that. So yeah, some people might think it's a boring drive, but if you pay attention, it's amazing what you'll actually see.
So we make our way across our first big salt lake. Now it's worth mentioning that this salt lake only weeks ago was actually a boggy mess and pretty much impassable. You can see the ruts as we head across here. So there was a lot of people getting stuck here and a lot of people who were unable to continue their journey across the desert without detouring.
So after crossing a few more sand dunes, we're now skirting through the middle of the dunes. We've got a big salt lake on our right that we've followed for quite some time. So we're actually coming up on Poeppel's Corner. So for those of you that don't know, back in the day he decided he was going to use a chain to measure his way to the intersection of Queensland, South Australia and Northern Territory. Unfortunately, over the distance, the chain stretched, and when he got there he was out by, I guess what you would call a considerable distance after walking that far. So there's the original and his marker, which is pretty dedicated to say the least, I think, to walk that far, and then pretty disappointing to get it wrong as well. So better luck next time.
Before long, we're coming up on our first destination for the trip, Poeppel's Corner. Now the sign literally has hundreds of stickers. A lot of them we know, some of them we don't, but it's hundreds of travellers that have come through these parts and left their mark.
Where are we? Tell us where we are.
No, because I might get it wrong.
I already talked about, I said Poeppel before.
Poeppel Corner.
Yeah.
But that's the original peg, isn't it?
Looks like it. And this is the actual.
No, I think there's a story about the stuff around here, if you read that.
After a quick stop at Poeppel Corner and a little bit of lunch, we continue our way across the desert, once again crossing over another massive salt lake. After what seems like another few hundred dunes and the day getting on, we make the decision to start looking for a campsite, and it's not long before we find an absolute cracker. We made a decision that we would spend the night with the guys again, and we'll make a call later tonight as to what we do tomorrow. the sun setting and the moon rising, it's time to settle in, have a few drinks, cook up some dinner, and enjoy another beautiful night in the Simpson Desert. Thanks to our sponsors Light Force Performance Lighting, MSA 4x4 Accessories, Airbag Man, and Install by Stu.